What doesn't kill you will make you stronger.
The Quarry is the next game from Supermassive. This is a lot more akin to Until Dawn than games within the Dark Pictures trilogy, even though there really isn't that much difference. The Quarry was advertised to be more like Until Dawn, so I went in expecting as much. Until Dawn was really one of a kind at its time of release in 2015, so after 5 other game releases that sort of fall within Until Dawn's shadow, it was nice to be promised a game that took more inspiration and approach like the first of Supermassive's hit storytelling horror games. Unfortunately, The Quarry doesn't really hit that bullseye and undoubtedly prevents this series of games to reach the heights of something like Until Dawn. The story is about a group of teenage summer camp counselors that get stuck at the camp, Hackett's Quarry, after all the kids go home. Much to his dismay, the camp owner Chris Hackett lets them stay an extra night as long as they don't leave the cabin. Short story short, their plan is to never even go into the cabin, but to party it up near the lake to have fun and let loose without any kids to take care of. Danger soon follows and all the characters get split up and chaos ensues.
Said to stay inside, that we're not leaving until the morning.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What are we supposed to do?
Well, we should go inside, like he said.
We could go inside until morning.
Yeah.
Or we could do something else.
There is a large cast of characters this time around. Chris Hackett is the owner of Hackett's Quarry and seems super nice, but is obviously hiding something. Emma is the pretty popular girl that likes to livestream. Jacob is the dumb jock that has a thing for Emma. Caitlin is an old friend of Jacob's and is super on the nose and stubborn, but is usually right in most situations. Ryan is the cool mysterious guy who is Chris's favorite. Nick and Abigail both like each other and are creative, but are very unsure of themselves. Dylan is the joke character who is actually very funny. The characters are portrayed by celebrities, and thanks to their acting chops, it makes them instantly recognizable, charming, and charismatic.
You go get some firewood. Emma and I will go to the stores for some supplies. And Dylan, you just, I don't know, figure out how to charge the phones or something. All right, let's do this.
A couple of things stood out to me that were a bit perplexing, but never got me upset in any way. The character of Emma has a big mouth, which is fine, but it is obviously hard to make it look normal. Sometimes her mouth opens too wide or spreads a bit too far that it just looks jarring and uncomfortable. Something else noticeable is that Ryan's voice is incredibly deeper than the others. It stands out because it almost sounds as if it is modulated at points. Later on in the game, when he is able to express more emotions, it sounds more on key with the other voice actors. The character of Ryan is also a mumble talker, so his lips barely sync up to what he is saying. You can also hardly ever see his teeth when he is talking, which makes his scenes even weirder between that and his voice. Not saying anything mean about the actual actors, but it just seems like it is a hard thing to animate correctly into this game.
There's supposedly an old woman who died in a fire a few years back. She haunts the woods looking for her lost baby boy. There are like reports of whispers or whatever, and this figure that floats around, textbook ghost stuff. Some people say that if she catches you alone, she'll try to turn you into her son. Or kill you, or something. I don't know. It's never really been clear. Anyways.
The standout characters of this game are the characters of Laura and Dylan. Laura, played by Siobhan Williams, is the most expressive, so incredibly so that it's night and day compared to the rest of the cast. Her dialogue gives her the most range acting, and the predicaments she ends up being in are stellar design-wise in terms of lighting. Dylan, played by Miles Robbins, falls in the category of you hate to love him and you love to hate him. Personally, I found him genuinely funny, and his carefree, nonchalant attitude made him very likable. He also seemed to nail the delivery of every single line as well.
Ringy-dingy-ding. Oh, sorry, bud. Gotta take this 1 second. Hello, Hackett's Quarry Summer Camp. What doesn't kill you will make you stronger. What can I do for you on this darn tootin' doozy of a day?
Is that your impression of Mr. H?
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He does need to be nicer to Dylan. And, what's that? You want him to give Dylan his phone number? That's a little forward, but I can see what I can do.
The game plays out like all the other games, where you take control of a character and you walk around an environment talking to people and interacting with objects until you continue with the story. The characters and acting are very important in games like these because if they are not good, then you have no need to continue playing. The game is very story driven, and the more you care about the characters, then the more you are invested in what is happening to them, which in turn makes you more careful of your decisions with them. Your goal is to make it out of the camp alive while running and dodging attacks from freakos. Collecting items and making decisions is the crux of the game. This time around, you collect tarot cards and different lore items that will all be used as evidence at the end of the game for proof of what happened at the quarry. After every chapter of the game, you are brought to a fortune teller where you can use the tarot cards to see future events that may or may not transpire, much like past games. The fortune teller is a mysterious being, but also serves a story purpose.
Better be going. It's still early and the moon is bright, but time won't wait. Not for those with a story to tell.
Collectibles can sometimes be pretty well hidden, but are all pretty much on the main path. So even if you miss a few, you will get enough story information that you will have a good understanding by the end of the game. You also can't collect everything in one playthrough, because of a couple decisions where you have to go one way and not the other. This was a decision that I'm glad they made after playing through House of Ashes, where everything was just lying around in front of you. Also, unlike House of Ashes, most of the collectibles are pretty different and make you actually think of what is going on. I'm glad that the mystery of actually solving what is happening is back, but it turns up being underwhelming by the end.
Ready to roll? Let's do it.
The big twist is so obvious this time around that adept players will get annoyed almost instantly with the characters not understanding what is happening. The story in general is fine, but the way it plays out isn't as good as you think it could have been. I can't say much without spoiling anything, but it feels like you are waiting for another twist the entire game, but nothing happens. The lore that the collectibles relay is literally nothing but useless information at the end of the day. Until Dawn's big twist were back-to-back surprises. Man and Madan had you guessing all the way through, and if you didn't collect the right pieces of evidence, you can go the entire game not knowing what truly was going on. Little Hope's twist hit the best right at the end and provided even more context after collecting all of the collectibles. House of Ashes surprised you up front about what was happening and then went completely left field at its climax. So, the Quarry being the biggest game so far, having the twist revealed practically at the beginning and nothing of interest happening for the rest of the game feels very poor and unsatisfying story-wise. There are some reveals, sure, but nothing as big as past games. The story doesn't feel as rewarding this time around other than just playing the game and seeing the characters interact.
Man, that's a bad place to get stuck.
The game has a plethora of problems. Much like the other games, there are a couple of decisions that are extra annoying because you think it is going to go one way and it doesn't, which may lead you down a path you weren't intending to go. Sometimes your decisions don't even matter. There is an entire situation about a character taking a gun or not, and no matter what you do, the same outcome occurs. During the game, there are sections called Don't Breathe, where you hold a button down to not make a sound and release it when you are ready to run away. These sections could have been more inventive. They all come down to just a matter of waiting until your breath meter is almost out. There could have been one where you could have a chance to release it quickly at the beginning, which would let you get away faster if you let it go later. I also ran into some glitches where the lighting would freak out sometimes and go crazy, lighting up a character's face for no reason. The water in the game also looks very bad, like rain and the entirety of the lake. It doesn't flow correctly, and the splashes are an entirely different frame rate. There are glitched trophies, streamers were still getting striked after putting the game in streamer mode, etc, etc. A lot of this stuff is annoying, but not totally game-breaking. Nonetheless, it is all unacceptable at this point. There is a death rewind feature that you get by either beating the game once or by purchasing the deluxe edition. You get it immediately. The death rewind feature gives you 3 lives. If a character dies, you can rewind to go back and change your decisions. Essentially, it's cool to see it properly executed and goes along with the 80s theme the game sort of gives off. In practice, it can be a hit or miss. Sometimes in order for you to save a character from death, you have to make a decision earlier in the game. There have been reports of people killing someone during the last chapter and using their rewind only for them to be brought back to the beginning of the game with no way back. Something I didn't like in the game was that there was no true ending. This supposedly being more aligned to be like Until Dawn, and it being advertised that there are 189 different endings, I'm disappointed in how things aren't wrapped up after being so engrossed. Until Dawn and the other games had credits where the characters would talk about their experience depending on the decisions you made, and it was fun to see all the different outcomes that could transpire. After reaching the ultimate outcome of the game just ends with little flashes of the characters telling you if they survived or not. It is incredibly absurd and offers little to no resolve between the drive and the relationships of the characters. It makes it feel like no matter what you did in the game, it kind of just doesn't matter. Like there could have been a conclusion with Jacob and Emma if you create Jacob to be charming enough, but no matter which way you play the game, there is no resolution to any of your overarching decisions.
Still no service.
Ah, yeah.
So, pretty boring.
The music and sound design is fine. I never had any weird moments or hiccups with it. The story of the game is modern, but everything has an 80s slasher movie vibe, most notably seen in the menus. Everything has a cool VHS effect and synth notes that punctuate that creepy feeling and really put you in the mood to see what is going to happen. There is one moment in particular where the music hit me in an astonishing way. The way the music matched the scenery and the moment and the decision I had to make really took me aback. I sat there in awe, and it is the first thing I think about when I think about this game. It's funny because it is almost unnoticeable, but it just hit me in a certain way that I will never forget.
Yo, leave the gun alone, man.
You got it, boss.
I have a lot of mixed feelings about the Quarry. I don't really like how the game is overall. The story and lore is lackluster, as well with the endings being practically non-existent. With that in mind, it seems pretty pointless to pick this game up, but that's not the case. The characters and acting definitely hold this game up. So much so, it is worth playing through the game just for that. The game looks great and the characters act realistic. The pacing of the game is good and climatic, and even though the lighting isn't anything special and the story is average, everything packaged together makes for an entertaining experience. I give The Quarry a 7.5 out of 10.